Hey everybody, if you have one of these nice new Flex 24 volt polishers, maybe this 8mm forced rotation, maybe the 15mm DA, or maybe you have the rotary and the 24 volt, these nice gray ones. Well, if you do, or even if you're thinking about buying one, let me show you just how easy it is to pop these things apart, change out the grease in them. And in fact, I think you're gonna be really surprised when I show you what it looks like inside one of these before you pop any grease in here. I think you're gonna be surprised. Let's get to it. All right, guys, so I'm gonna show you the procedure on this forced rotation polisher, this 8mm forced rotation. Now, it is the same procedure on the DA, the 15, okay, and also the rotary. And I'll explain as I go, and you'll see exactly why at the end of the video, why the 15, the 8, and the rotary are all the same. All right, so the tools that we're gonna use, all right, we have a straight blade screwdriver. This is a 3/16. If you have a smaller one, that's okay. If you have a smaller one than this, find yourself a penny on the ground and I'll show you why. So we're gonna need that. You're gonna need a T15 star bit or Torx little driver. And if you have one of those like magnetic things that you can hold it, that's fine. I'm going to be using a little 12 volt impact from Milwaukee. This is going to be my choice, my tool of choice. Then you're also going to need a T20 star bit or Torx bit, and then a 3/32 hex or Allen key, same thing. Some Q-tips. We're going to be working with the Lucas, the red and tacky grease, and then I'm going to have a glove to wear that. I have an old coating towel that I'm going to use to put the parts on so they don't roll away or get lost. And then some paper towels, obviously, because we're going to be working with some grease. We'll probably make a mess. So that's the tools that we're going to use. It's going to be fairly simple, so let's get started. All right, let's get started. I pulled the coating towel out of the way because the Velcro backing really sticks to the microfiber, and then even the pad that I have on this, it's kind of grippy and it'll stick to the microfiber, so it's easy if I just work on this. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove this plug on the side. So if you don't, and again, if you have too small of a screwdriver, that's where your penny comes in handy, and you can just loosen these little side things up with that penny. You're going to remove that. Set that aside. Pop the other one out. All right. And then here and here, there's going to be two screws into the plastic, and that's what you need your Allen key for. So we're just going to pop these out. All right, so we will finish taking this out. All right, so once this comes out now, we're going to put that aside. We're done with that little Allen key, and then all we're going to do is this pops apart, just like this. So now you have two halves. We're going to set those aside. And the rotary, now this housing here is a different part number for the DA, the forced rotation, and the rotary, but the process is the same regardless of how you do this process. It's all the same. It's just a different part number because of the way this is made. So what we're going to do is we are going to just take our 15, and that's going to be the one on the top. So we're going to loosen that up. We'll set this aside. Then we're going to switch to our T20 and loosen the other ones up. And as you're going to see, there's spacers. So the spacers are going to be on the front of the tool. The ones without the spacers are going to be on the back. And the T15s are in the back. And then you're going to also see this arrow. This arrow on this plastic cover is going to point towards the motor. It's going to make it super simple to remember how this fits together. Now, this is what we're going to need the screwdriver for. So what you're going to do is just in the very back here, you're going to come in. And in fact, let me try and all you're going to do is just very, very slightly pry up a little bit. All right, you're going to get that started. Now you don't want to pry on the corners because this plastic is very delicate. You're going to then come in on the edge a little bit more and slowly work your way around, popping this cover up and off. And then once you get it enough off, it's going to pop off, and you will be surprised at what the grease looks like inside there. It's almost non-existent. All the grease has been slung right into the cover there. And in fact, you can see where if I pop over, so the arrow is where this gear was right there. And if I flip that over, you're going to see that the metal, the wear from the gear putting together, has actually slung some of that, we'll call it wear, into the grease right there. And so what we want to do, we're going to clean this all out. We're going to clean out a little bit, the little bit remaining in there. And then we're going to pack this thing full of grease so that the gear here will always have grease. It will always be running in grease. It's going to make it quieter. It should run better. And it's going to keep the premature any wear to a very minimum. All right, so I've put on my glove. And all I'm going to do, I have this paper towel. I'm going to take my screwdriver. And all I'm going to do is just scrape out that old grease, the dirty grease. Onto the paper towel. And you're going to notice that this grease is fairly, it's not very like sticky or tacky or anything. It's kind of runny actually. The only problem is it actually doesn't get, doesn't go back onto, you could see, well, I mean, you could see it just doesn't like sit on the gears. That's the biggest problem. So I got most of that off. Now I'm just going to take my Q-tip and just go around and get whatever else I can out of this. Flip it over. And this, we don't need to get like a cleaner or anything like that and clean it all out. We just need to get the majority out. So we're going to take this. Now, the other thing too is, you might notice when this comes apart, there's a little star washer in here. And hopefully you could see inside there. That washer may come apart or may come out of this housing when you take it apart and sit on top of this bearing. So just be careful that it's going to go right back in here. The other thing you're going to want to know is this cover, there's an O-ring on here. And the O-ring, when you pop it off, the O-ring may start to come apart or may come off of this cover here. You're going to want to make sure that you put it back in the groove that's around here. That O-ring is going to actually seal this and make sure that none of the grease actually slings or leaks out of here. So be careful of that O-ring, be careful of that washer, and well, that's all we need to really worry about. And all I'm going to do is, actually, let me just do this really quick. Now that I got that paper towel, we'll just touch it up really quick, and we're going to leave it like that. All right, now we're going to get to the the gear mechanism, and there's almost no grease in here to come out that you could see. So I'm just going to scrape out what literally little bit I can. And then all I'm going to do is take my Q-tip and just get out the remaining, whatever else I can get out with the Q-tip. There's almost nothing left to remove out of this thing, because they put so little in here. It's absolutely crazy. And that's it. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to like use solvents or anything in here to remove any of that remaining grease. That's it. So now let's get to putting the new grease into our unit. All right, so we have our red and tacky. And all we're going to do, we're literally just going to scoop it out with our finger. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do with this is fill this. Because as you saw, everything that came out of this was slung up against the top because of the rotation of the gears. So if we fill this completely, everything that we put inside here, in theory, should stay inside here. And I can honestly say with the DA, I've taken it apart after I did this. And this, it will want to sling up into here. And this is why I'm wearing a rubber glove, because it can get messy. All right, so now that this is completely packed with grease, I'm going to set this aside. And now we're going to turn our attention to getting grease inside our gear. And we're basically going to do the same thing. We're just going to start packing it in. And I want to get as much of it into the gear as I can. And the other thing to be mindful of, this sits actually down inside here a little bit, so you can't completely pack this with grease because you need some place. The grease, it'll actually, like, you can actually overfill it. So we're gonna do probably one more scoop right here. And call it good. And then I'm going to take the paper towel and just kind of clean up the mess that I made along the edges, like that. All right, now that I have the grease in here, the grease packed in here, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start reassembly. I'm gonna line it up and I'm slowly gonna wiggle it into place. And remember, make sure that O-ring is where it belongs before you do this, and make sure that washer is in there. But it'll pop right on there, and then we can take our paper towel, clean up any excess. And then start the reassembly. And always start these screws by hand. Like so. This one's fairly loose, so I can even turn it in a little bit with the 15. And then I'm just going to come in, and we don't want to over tighten it. We don't want to break that plastic. Just going to snug it up. That was a T20. Here's the T15. There we go. Give it one more quick wipe. And now we are ready to reassemble the two halves. Like this. And I like to put in the plastic plugs first, because they'll hold these pieces together. And again, we could just even take our penny and tighten that up. Flip it over. Plastic plug in on the other side. Take our penny. Now at this point, what we could do is, just to make sure everything's okay before we put in these two screws, we can attach the battery and just make sure it works. And it works. So let's undo the battery and get these two screws back in. And now we're done replacing the grease in the gearbox, doing our maintenance, etc. Now, the gear driven, and I decided to do this one because let me show you something. That's the only place where you're going to add grease, is in that top gear. So let me show you why we don't want to add any grease to this other unit inside the gear driven. So if we take our pad off, we have our three hexes holding the backing pad on. So if I remove that, in fact, let me take my glove off now. I'm done with that. So if we take our backing pad off, you're going to see the counterweight. You're going to see this plastic ring. Okay, if you take that off, now this is that T15. So if we take this off, that just zips right out. We'll set that aside. And if we take our screwdriver again, right at the bottom of this pops right off. There's nothing else holding it on, just that screw. So, and there's a, you could see it's like a flat. There's a corresponding flat in here, so you can't put this on wrong. You can't reinstall it backwards. And then this plate pops right off. Now, that's the gear set for the gear driven. So if I put this back together, all right, you're going to see that there's a gap in here, okay? And there's no seal. There's no seal along this edge. There's no seal here. There's no seal on this at all either. So what that means is that if we tried to put grease in here, it's going to sling right out the side of your polisher onto the paint that you're working on, and that is a big no-no. So you do not want to add any grease into your gear-driven polisher in these rings. Now, these rings are made out of like some type of plastic. And then I remember the first time I took this apart, there's actually one of these gears, looks like it's broken. And if I could find it, here it is. This one right here looks like it's broken. Let me kind of zoom in. Like that. So I'm going to show you a close-up picture, because what I found is that I thought it was broken, but if I zoomed in with my close-up picture with the camera, you can kind of see that it's got the normal, it's actually made like that, and it's got a molding like an injection mark. And that injection mark this was deliberate. And so don't think that your gear is broken. That's just how it's supposed to look. So anyway, this is why on the gear driven, you do not want to add any additional grease inside that gear. It is going to be louder because of this. There's no grease that goes on here. It's going to be louder, but that's just how it's made. You got to live with it. And that's why I took this apart, just to show you that the first thing that we did where we added the grease, that's the only place you're going to put it. And then reassembly is as easy as just getting some of these gears to line back up. There we go, pops right back into place. We line up, oops, flip it over. We line up the counterweight again. We're going to zip the screw back in. Always start it by hand so we don't cross thread or strip it out. And then I could zip it back on. There we go. We'll put our plastic ring back on. Line up our backing pad, our backing plate, I should say. And screw it back in. So there you go, guys. This is how you change out the grease, you maintain your 8mm forced rotation, along with your 15mm DA, and also how you maintain your rotary. They all come apart the same way. It's that simple, guys. All right, guys, so really quick, this is the forced rotation parts list breakdown, and you could see how we took this apart. You have the two pieces there, the right and the left side covers and how they come off. There's two screws on the one side, okay? And then the gearbox there, 533758. And if we switch over to the DA, the 15mm, we have a 533763, so it's not exactly the same, but that also includes a different like pinion gear, I guess you could call it. But it's the same. It comes apart the exact same way. And then if we switch over to the rotary is a little bit different because there's like a gear reduction system in there between the motor and that housing. The housing's a little bit different. It's a 533751, but the cover and the bolts all exactly the same. The plastic housing pieces that come apart the plastic housing pieces are different because the number is molded in there, but it's the same way. Two screws, two like plastic screws, and the two little plastic button, I guess, screws. I don't even know what you would call them. But anyway, same deal, guys. So all three of them come apart the exact same way. So get to it. All right, everybody, there you have it. Just how easy it is to change out the grease in these. Now, as I mentioned during the video, the one thing you don't want to do, don't pry up in the corners where those screws are. I learned from my mistakes, and I wanted to kind of warn you about that too. So, but the one thing is, like, especially with the gear driven, it really doesn't quiet it down much because that plastic gear in there, as I showed you, is going to continue to be the loudest part of it. And even the 15mm here, there's quite a bit of noise made from just the counterbalance, okay? But when you're running this now, you can physically hear the motor. You can hear like kind of just the whir against the gears. There's almost no noise from the actual like gear mechanism. It's all kind of coming down from here. So it really does, if you look at it on a decibel meter, it really doesn't quiet it down a whole lot on the decibel meter. You notice there's a little bit smoother operation, but you can definitely hear the difference in the sound of the motor itself and in the gears here. So I highly recommend that you, at least pop yours open, take a look. I'm really think you're going to be surprised at how the grease looks in there and just how much, especially if you've been using it, how much of that like gear wear you're gonna see on that grease. So anyway, I really hope this helped you out. I really hope that you can take care of your own, you know, your own flex polisher. It's real easy. Just a screwdriver, the 3/32 Allen key, a couple star drives, and well, that's it. So in any event, guys, and you know what? You might be like, hey, mine is under warranty. Why do I need to care? Well, guess what? The best warranty is the one that you never need to use. And I can guarantee that if you use this, okay, to make money, it's not gonna make money for you if it's sitting in the shop getting repaired. So anyway, take care of your tools, and I will talk to you on the next one.